Unfortunately, I got some bad news to share with you guys today. Rondale Moore, the wide receiver who the Falcons acquired in the Desmond Ridder trade, suffered a severe injury at the joint practice with the Miami Dolphins today. It came at the end of the 11-on-11 drills, which was wrapping up the practice anyway, and it happened away from the play, actually on the other side of the field. So not exactly sure what happened, but ultimately he was carted off the field. There was an air cast placed on his leg. I believe I saw Adam Schefter say that he was taken to a hospital. Big bummer. I mean, that's downplaying it, of course. It sucks to see injuries any time of the year, but it always feels like it stings a little bit more when it happens in training camp in the preseason, before the season even gets underway. So hoping and praying for the best for Rondale Moore. I was really excited about what he could bring to the Falcons offense because he brought so much speed with him, which Drake London is not necessarily the fastest guy in the room. Darnell Mooney definitely brings some speed, but you can tell that the Falcons were shifting their offensive identity from bigger, more physical guys like Matt Collins to speedier guys like Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore. So unfortunate to see, and not a good sign, of course, because you had both teams, especially the Falcons, circling and coming over to Rondale Moore on the cart. Bijan Robinson led a team prayer afterwards. It sucks, and all we can do right now is hope that it's not as severe as it sounds and as it looks, but we've been down this road before as football fans. Anytime the cart comes out, everyone holds their breath. You put on the cast on the leg, and it's tough to envision that it's not going to be a tough outcome for Rondale Moore. So that's the big injury news from the joint practice, the Miami Dolphins. Today was the second day of those joint practices leading into a preseason game with the Dolphins on Friday, which we're going to do a watch party for. So I invite everyone watching to come hang out with us if you either don't have access to the Falcons preseason games, because it can be a little bit weird watching preseason on TV, especially if you're out of market. Come hang out with us. It's a great way to watch a football game. Or if you do have the ability to watch it, put the game on your TV, put us on your computer, your iPad, your laptop, and I guarantee it's going to be a lot more fun and lively in our chat during the game than whatever's going on for the TV broadcast. But that's the news right there. Rondale Moore, wide receiver, carted off the field with an apparent leg injury. Fingers, toes, everything crossed, praying that it's not as severe as it looks, but it looked bad, and we haven't gotten an update from Raheem Morris or anything conclusive, and we're probably not going to for a little bit, but if we do get something, we'll let you guys know, but hopefully Rondale Moore can make a quick and speedy recovery. So that's it on the Rondale Moore front. I just want to spend the next couple of minutes going through some other notes from the joint practice, because I feel that these joint practices can actually be a lot more beneficial than the preseason games themselves. Like, Kirk Cousins was playing against the Dolphins defense today. You know what Kirk's not going to do on Friday? Play it all. So this gives us an actual opportunity to watch the first team offense and defense go up against another team's first team offense and defense, which is likely not going to be the case when the preseason games arrive, because coaches don't want to share anything. They don't want to risk injuries, so they tend to keep their cards close to their chest. Now, we did have a fight, two fights, kind of scrums break out. Ray McLeod took on a big hit, and that kind of got people, heated up a little bit. We saw some scrums break out yesterday between the Giants and the Lions. The NFL fined both teams $200,000. When the NFL identifies something they don't like, they are very active. They are not reactionary. They go after whatever the problem is, and they try to muzzle it as quickly as possible. So don't be surprised if tomorrow you see the Falcons and the Dolphins get some fines for the extracurricular activities they got into today. I always hate when people pretend like fights aren't cool in sports. It's the best. Like, people running on the field and fights breaking out is instant must-see TV. And anyone that tries to say otherwise is lying, especially when it's during like a college football game. Like, oh, we don't want to see, especially baseball's the worst of this. Sorry, I'm going to go for a side tangent here. But especially in baseball games when people charge them out and they're like, we don't want to see this. Like, hell yeah, we do. Fights in sports are so rare that they're so awesome to see. So I'll say the quiet part out loud. Now, I'm sure the Falcons coaching staff doesn't want to see it because it mostly just wastes time, right? They get such little time with the players in pads on the field. They want to squeeze every possible minute out of it, because if you like watching Hard Knocks, which I loved watching, we saw in the first episode yesterday with the Chicago Bears that these coaching staff, these positional coaches, spend a lot of time with their position units, and they watch the film from practice, and they want to get every possible rep out there. So the fights kind of broke out a little bit between the Dolphins today, but by and large, I would say the Falcons' defense was winning the physicality battle at the line of scrimmage with Miami's offensive line, which I think is a pretty middle of the pack O-line. I don't think it's top 5, but I don't think it's bottom 5 either. So it was great to see the Falcons defensive line, which definitely has some question marks surrounding it, win some battles against other competition than their own offensive line. So that's going to be exciting to monitor throughout the rest of the preseason. Hopefully this young and just kind of inexperienced group can come out and surprise people. I mean, it would definitely surprise myself if we saw a bunch of the young defensive linemen step up into larger roles that were occupied by more veteran players like Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree last season. So that's going to be a big question mark going into the season. What does Atlanta have in its defensive line? Now, we'll kind of wrap up the video by just putting a bow on the Rondale Moore segment. We don't know what the severity is or the timetable or anything like that, but I mean, we can kind of acknowledge that when the cart and the cast come out, it's likely going to be a severe injury. I'm not going to try and start guessing what the Falcons are going to do to make up for Rondale Moore's potential departure. We'll wait and let the coaching staff decide, that and how severe the injury is once they get that information. But they're going to have to make some level of an addition. I think Rondale Moore and his speed were in for not a huge role this year, but there was going to be a role in Rondale Moore for this upcoming offense. He didn't get off necessarily the greatest start to training camp in terms of getting up at the first team offense. He was usually running with the second team, but as the pads came on, we started to see more of Rondale Moore with the first team offense. So I feel like he was maybe trying to or get into a rhythm a little bit. Still early in camp, but it's a heartbreaker. That's what Grady Jarrett said. It sucks. This Falcons team went through a lot of injuries last year. Grady Jarrett knows that all too well, along with guys like Troy Anderson. So hopefully Rondale Moore can find his way back onto the field soon, especially going to the final year of his contract. You really got to have your heart pour out for him as he was trying to prove himself to get a nice second contract. So there's never a good time for an injury, but going into a contract situation like that feels like it compounds it even more. All right, that will do it for us on our at-home edition. I'm off today, but I still wanted to share the news of the Rondale Moore injury. So we'll see everyone later. Make sure to hang out with us Friday for our watch party against the Dolphins.